Hello, everyone. This is good old Harmon Smith here with today's installment of the Chiller 7. After not streaming yesterday, I am back and better than ever. I had a really rough like Friday and Saturday. So coming in on Sunday and like getting up and like I got I don't know. I say I didn't get a lot done, but I got that like Star Fox video up and I got the Nintendo video up and like I don't know, I did like a 4 hour like gaming live stream. I don't know. I feel like general podcasts are better for me than gaming streams because with gaming streams I tend to get carried away and then start like streaming for 4, 6, 8 hours a night, and it's just not really doable. Honestly, like I really do need to think of ways to like of optimizing my time. I'm just like I'm not like super interested in like streaming a lot right now. Like honestly, I think I'm kind of happy with where I'm at now. Where like I'm caught up on pretty much every game I want to get through, and every time I want to play something, every time I want to stream something, I'll just go out and do it. Okay, every time I want to stream something, I'll just go out and do it. So yeah, right now I'm trying to get through Tales of Berseria, trying to get through this game, which is an amazing game, by the way. I don't know if I've like talked about it on stream, like on the Chiller 7 yet, but like Tales of Berseria, it's not like the best RPG ever or even the best Chaos game, but like for me personally, it's something that like really strongly resonates with me and is just I would call it a personal favorite, honestly. And that's not something I really say all that much about RPGs because usually it's like good or it's not. But with Berseria, it's like it's one of those situations where it's like I don't know. This has a ton of problems, and yet, like, I really, really like it anyway. Like, Berseria is super underrated. Probably my favorite PS4 game now, honestly. And it's very interesting because Berseria, I think, got overshadowed by like Bloodborne and Nier Automata, and it's better than both those. So, like, that's very interesting to kind of think about and address is like how a game like this can kind of go under the radar because I swear I had no idea this game came out and that it was as good as it was. Okay, like I didn't think like Tales. I remember around the time this came out, like I was telling people that Tales felt like it was a declining IP, and to a certain extent that is true because I do think in certain respects, it's never really like obtained the relevancy it had with like Symphonia. Because like Symphonia was like this major like GameCube classic. Like Symphonia just did so much to kind of like resonate with people, and it was just this, beloved like GameCube JRPG. Like Berseria just didn't hit that level. So like it's very interesting because like it felt like Tales was falling off, but the games were still good. Actually, quite a bit better because I actually like Berseria way more than Symphonia, which is very unusual for me. I would say. I mean, I thought Symphonia wasn't as great as it was hyped up to be. I certainly liked it. I certainly didn't dislike it or anything, but like it did feel like really bloated, and they didn't do a lot with like some of the cast members, and it's just like they could have been like a little bit more interesting, and like it was like Symphonia just had it had a ton of problems, but like the long and short of it was is that like it was a really really good game. I was like I remember like around like the 2007 2008 period where like people were just like obsessed with Tales of Symphonia. It was a big deal in the Nintendo community back then, and it's very easy to forget that. And it's just one of those things where like it feels like with RPGs you have this like massive surge of popularity, but then it like kind of falls off again. Because I was talking about this with Fire Emblem the other day, right? Because like Awakening is one of my all-time favorite games. It's like a cultural phenomenon, one of the best games on 3DS, one of the best Nintendo games ever produced. And it like I haven't gone back to play it, and it's not because the game is bad. Quite the contrary, it's just one of those situations where like that game came out 13 years ago. I played it to death, and I just haven't gone back to it yet. And I do think that's like kind of the mindset that people need to get into is that like just because you haven't played a game in like a decade or 20 years or whatever, that doesn't make it bad. Because like I was thinking about this with like Star Fox Command, is that like was Star Fox Command really that bad? And I'm like working on the retrospective now. I'm like doing my first draft. I have not played the game yet. Again, I've I did like a playthrough on Wii U a couple of months back. I think it was this year, maybe it was last year. I did like a quick playthrough of like the first route, like before you unlock like the key to unlock the other routes. And like I was kind of wondering, like, I don't know, is the game as bad as I remember it being? Because I think universally everyone kind of agrees this is the worst Star Fox game. I think people have a ton of issues with it, but like, I've seen like other people like review it. I saw an X Play review. I saw like, some other people like cover it, and I'm watching it, and I'm just kind of like, as a kid, I think I like this more than Assault because I think Command actually manages to like, it's cool seeing like, having all these different playable characters, seeing like getting to the endings, getting to like I don't know, seeing how like they incorporate all these like obscure Star Fox lore aspects. It's like to me, it just feels a lot more like interesting than Assault, which to me felt like really basic and really, really, really boring. Like you could say a lot about Command, about how it fucks up like Crystal and like the team dynamics and stuff like that, but it's not really boring either. And I think like that's kind of what makes it like stick out compared to most Nintendo games is that like it just seems like there are so many weird things about it that it comes off as pretty memorable. So I'm actually like I actually do want to go back and like play through a good chunk of Command. I don't know if I'll be able to do like every single like route for this retrospective. I would like to, but I don't know if like I'll be able to like record everything. Like I'm not sure if you could even like record like the gamepad footage so you can like see what the map screen looks like. I don't think we'll really need to, but it's just one of those things where like I don't know exactly how this is going to look. I don't know exactly um how the retrospective is going to turn out. And I'm putting more effort into it, I think, than I have like any other like video I've ever produced. I'm actually scripting it this time, so I'm giving some like personal insights and some history and like my mindset going into this. I don't know. I don't know how much I should talk about that. But like for me personally, I felt like Command was actually a step in the right direction when it came out because I didn't want to see Star Fox on foot like ever. And this is like the weird major like contentious point that a lot of people have these days is that they're freaking out over like why isn't Star Fox getting out of the plane? Because like these games are about the planes, okay? Like, the flying is like a critical aspect of the experience, right? You can have alternate gameplay styles, like with the Landmaster, with the Gyro Ring, or whatever. But like on foot was just like it just never worked, and it never will work. They're basically just like they're taking away the series core identity to try and like capitalize on like what everything else is doing. I remember playing Star Fox Assault and thinking it was like not as good as Halo. And I think that's actually a pretty reasonable statement, honestly. Like, is Star Fox Assault better than Halo? And I don't think it is, honestly. And I detest Halo, right? Again, there's plenty of things I like about Assault when it comes to like, the map design and like how difficult it is and stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, like it just was not as good as 64. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to notice is that like I'm fine with the idea of like, Star Fox spin-offs, but they really have to like keep putting out original games first, right? They need to stick with the original formula first, okay? Like Mario has always gotten 2D games on top of getting 3D ones. So I don't understand why we're stuck in this mindset that like Star Fox needs to like get out of the plane. Like that's just not something that like any real fan wants to see. And like the weird thing about it is that like the reception of the remake kind of demonstrates that pretty well. Is that like nobody wants to see Star Fox get outside of the plane. It's just like the reception of the remake, like this is going to be the best selling Star Fox game ever, I think, by quite a wide margin. And I just don't like. We were told like by the community, like over and over and over again, that like the remake was a that another 64 remake would be a bad idea. We didn't want to rehash. We wanted something new, fresh, and original. And like instead, we get this, and like the community kind of like rallies behind it. So this is not what I wanted. Okay, what I wanted out of a new Star Fox game was to be a completely new sequel to 64, not a remake, not a remaster, um, a reimagining like 64 maybe, you know, like Zero maybe, but like a straight on like remake is not something that like I ever really wanted, because like to me I feel like 64 just hasn't aged like a day, and it's still perfectly playable today by like modern audiences. So I just don't understand why they felt the need to like completely remake it. Like I would have been happy if it was just like the same general format, but they just had like different levels. Like I don't see why they felt the need to like recreate the 64 levels in like the new game. Like if they just had like the new story and like completely original levels, like voila, we have like a completely original game. But instead, like they had to remake the levels. Like why? Like the levels are like 30 years old. Surely you can do better than that. Like Zero had phenomenal levels. Like if you've never played Star Fox Zero, like Star Fox Zero felt like an actual evolution of the 64 formula, which made it feel as if you were fighting like actual spaceships, as if you were like in like actual like in-depth battles. Like it actually felt like they put a lot of thought into like the structure and like the design and how things like play out over time. It feels like you're fighting a real war in a lot of ways. And it's just like I've never played anything like it, honestly. And it's so frustrating how like the community has like obsessively tried to like downplay this game over the years, because Zero in a lot of ways is better than 64. And I've actually seen a lot of people come out and say that now, is that like yeah, Zero is my favorite Star Fox because of how technically demanding it is. Like I have seen people say that it's kind of a niche mindset now, but I really wonder if like if the remake coming out and being as well received as it is, if it might allow more room for people to like, acknowledge how great Zero was. Because the way things are looking now, I would say that Star Fox Zero is going to be better than Star Fox Remake. And that's like very unfortunate, but like the way things look with like the focus on story and like rehashing old elements, like the remake just doesn't seem as if like it's on par with what Zero is doing. Like it's on par with what like the original with what 64 is doing. Like it just feels like it's going to ruin the pacing and like the game flow and like the progression, and it's just like are we really going to have like completely different cutscenes, like a completely different story like every time you go through a different route? Like it just feels like it's going to get grating, and it's not really going to like draw people in. I'm just like I feel like 64 had like the perfect setup and the perfect formula where like you were able to pick up on a lot of like of the characters' personalities and the lore just by listening to like the dialogue and like the exposition. Like I just feel as if like the remake just isn't gonna like nail it as well. And like I already don't like the voice actors, I already don't like the designs, I already don't like the fact it's a remake. I just don't see the remake being better than Zero in any way, shape, or form. And it's just like I can't imagine I'll be alone on that, honestly. I'll probably be leading the charge actually on that discussion. But yeah, it'll be interesting if like Zero is like validated because of the success of the remake. Because I think a mindset that a lot of people had was this idea that like Star Fox was going to be like a completely dead IP after Zero, which wasn't true even then, because they made it very clear that Star Fox was going to be something that was like a focus for them going forward. Um, we were told by the community that Star Fox was a dead IP, that it was never going to come back, that Miyamoto had given up on it, that like it would just be the same game over and over. And it's just like it just was never true, really. Like none of the criticisms like lobby that Star Fox were ever true. Outside of like maybe that the one in the 2000s about how they need to go back to the 64 formula. Um like it just feels as if people are like looking for reasons to complain about it and just like making up all these like radical like assertions and claims and stuff like that. And it just comes off as like as if these people don't really know what they're talking about, really. Again, the whole like, you know, the whole like obsession with pretending like every Star Fox game is a remake is a good example of that. Is that like that's not true, that never will be true, but like the masses kind of gaslit themselves into thinking it was, and that they'll stick with it for as long as they possibly can. I left my tea over here. Better than all other Star Fox games. I would say that's pretty much a guarantee at this point. Like just by going by like the YouTube view count and like the Amazon bestsellers page, yeah, at the very least, I think Star Fox Remake is going to outsell like pretty much every Star Fox game ever. Like I don't know how much it could sell. I would love it if it like cracked like 10 million or something like that. But like I'm not sure how realistic that is. But yeah, if it could outsell 64, that would be great. Just so we can like get it through everyone's heads that like Star Fox is still a relevant IP and still popular. Yoshi is doing a lot better than I think anybody like thought. Because I was going into this being like, I don't know. It seems like people are like upset at it. People are spurging at it. I could see like this being like the game that the gaming journalism industry like downplays this year. Like I didn't think it would like be that big of a deal, but like I think it's very possible that it might actually outsell Crafted World and might actually become the best-selling Yoshi game, which is going to be like phenomenal if it pulls that off. Because if that happens, that's going to kill like one of the big narratives we've been seeing in like recent years. Because we keep getting told we keep getting told that like Switch 1 games like outsold like Switch 2 games, which is not true. Like Switch 1 games like sold over a long period of time. So like Tennis Aces did not sell like 5 million units or whatever the fuck like year 1 or like on launch day. It happened like gradually over time. And I think the same thing is going to happen to Fever. So like considering where we're at with Yoshi, I think we're gonna see the same thing with that, where we get like a modest success initially, but then it slowly starts ramping up over time. Oh, by the way, the Mario Galaxy movie comes out tomorrow, doesn't it? On streaming. Finally, I am anxious to watch that again. But Friends of Beach Showtime and Yoshi's Crafted World are great. Yeah, there's a lot of like underappreciated Switch games, and I feel like that's kind of how like the Switch 2 generation is defined right now. Is that like we're seeing reboots of all these like underappreciated gems because Tropical Freeze came out, was a masterpiece, nobody cared. Star Fox Zero came out, was a masterpiece, everybody hated it. Um, like Yoshi, came back with Woolly World, got a really good sequel with Crafted World, and yet nobody cared. Um, what we're seeing now is that we're seeing like Nintendo put out these lower budget, like B-list franchises and having them do really, really, really well. It's just like the reality of it. Like the Switch 2 is filled with these kind of games right now. And like the narrative right now among like the industry is like, oh, nobody cares about this. The Switch 2 is never going to do well. But like it's like they don't understand what's happening. Is that like we're seeing these B-list franchises. They're bigger than a lot of companies like A-list franchises now. Because I pointed this out with Kirby Air Riders, as much as people bitched about that game and bitched about how it wasn't going to do as well as Mario Kart and bitched about how niche it was and how nobody cares about Kirby, it did better than Sonic Racing Crosswords. Kirby Air Riders. Well, first of all, that inspired my novel, The Dream Warrior, which is coming out later this year. But second of all, like Kirby Air Riders outperforms Sonic. Okay, Kirby in the Forgotten Land outperforms Sonic Frontier. Like Kirby is way bigger than Sonic now. Like it probably has been for a long while. But like, will we ever like see anybody acknowledge that? Like, will we see like the masses like admit it? Like, is there going to be like an actual acknowledgement as to like what's happening and like the current situation and like what is there going to be like a change in like perspective, or is people going to are people going to acknowledge that like these games are doing well? No, they're not. They're going to keep up this farce that like, oh yeah, Sonic, he's going to be bigger than Mario someday, when it's not possible at this point. Like Sonic like wasn't even competitive with Mario at like his peak. And yet we're still told that like Sonic is gonna beat Mario, or that like Ratchet and Clank is gonna beat Mario or something. Like I saw Scott the Woz trying to do that. That's one of the reasons I was so pissed with Scott the Woz last night, is that like I'm watching a Star Fox Zero video, and he's trying to say he got a lot more mileage out of Uncharted 4 and like Ratchet and Clank, and I'm just like, Scott, you're not fooling anybody. You're not. No, stop it. But yeah, like I expect we're going to see a lot more of that in the Switch 2 generations. We're going to see a lot more returns of like classic franchises and a lot more like interesting new games. Like I think it might be a long time before we see a new 3D Zelda or a Smash Bros. Right? That's kind of my mentality on it at this point. Is that like I feel as if like we're kind of in this like major cultural shift where it's like it's getting harder and harder to downplay like these smaller Nintendo games. It's just like why Nintendo won't make a game like Metroid Prime again. They just they just put out like Metroid Prime 4. What? Okay. Okay, we're probably gonna have to like talk about that because that just seems autistic. Okay. Star Oz is evergreen, isn't it? Is it really? I didn't like Star Allies. It's actually Star Allies was like one of those games where I was just kind of like Yeah, this is weak. I mean, they followed up with Forgotten Land, which is one of the best Kirby games ever, but like Star Allies was kind of lacking compared to like Planet Robobot or Triple Deluxe or like Return to Dreamland. Like Star Allies is probably one of my most least favorite Kirby games ever. It's just I just didn't understand what they were thinking with that one. Yeah, we really need a new like good 2D Kirby game because we have not gotten one since like Planet Robobot. So hopefully that's what they do next. Dreamland Deluxe will be an evergreen. Yeah, I hope it is. Like, yeah, I definitely recommend it to people. Yeah, I love Return of Dreamland Deluxe. Yeah, I didn't grow up with Return of Dreamland. I didn't buy it when it came out, but I kind of wish I did. I because that kind of kicked off like the Kirby Renaissance. Like I love Return of Dreamland, but like yeah, we do need to talk about this more. Um, about how like these smaller Nintendo IPs are just like they just keep getting disrespected. Cause I keep seeing people saying that like Bonanza didn't do all that well, and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, are you delusional? It's just like it's just embarrassing how like determined the community is to like downplay Switch 2 games. Like I think they have a warped idea on how much games sell these days because like um usually what happens with like PlayStation and Xbox these days is that like a new console comes out and like all of the games are also available on PS4. So like what ends up happening is that you have this inflated like these inflated like sales numbers for new consoles, like it misrepresents like how much these things are actually selling, right? So like DK Bonanza being a Switch 2 exclusive and selling less is actually better than like what PlayStation is doing because DK Bonanza is incentivizing people to buy the Switch 2 and buy more Switch 2 games and like be invested in that ecosystem and like bite the bullet on it as opposed to like PlayStation 5, which still has no major exclusives to speak of. Yeah, wouldn't it be amazing if Grand Theft Auto 6 came out and we're just like, yeah, we're gonna put this game on PlayStation 4. It's embarrassing what we're seeing now out of the community. Okay, let's I have some videos I wanted to react to, so let's go ahead and bring those up. I think we'll do this one second, but okay. Nintendo is afraid of good stories. So this has been like a talking point for a long time, the whole like story thing. And keep in mind, I'm a novelist. I read a lot. I have always had nothing but contempt for this narrative. Like to me, this is like it really goes against like the very spirit of Nintendo and like what a video game should be. Like I don't want to see a story in a video game like ever outside of like certain genres like RPGs and visual novels. Like story to me like really limits like the potential of gameplay and like what a game should be about. And this is like a pretty self-evident thing and like Nintendo's talked about it and why they don't prioritize it, but you definitely have a lot of people who insist that like story is like something that really matters in games. It doesn't. Like it just doesn't, honestly.
Hi there, it's Donovan. You ever find yourself wondering why Super Mario Galaxy 2 has no plot? Or what happened to the Sheikah Tech in Tears of the Kingdom? Or why everything in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? Nintendo is not known for their stories. The day Nintendo makes a cinematic PlayStation Studios-like game is also the day when the sun explodes. The boys in
I mean, Star Fox remakes kind of looks like that. So, is the sun gonna explode next month? Is that what he's trying to tell us? But anyway.
Blue within their Kyoto headquarters prioritize one thing when making their games, and that is fun. It's been a mantra they've been following since their days as a toy company, or technically since their inception. But times are changing. Games are 100-hour experiences with heart-wrenching, emotional stories that hook players in. The Hollywoodification of
Yeah, the Hollywoodification that everyone hates. In fact, people don't even like actual Hollywood anymore. This is an argument like 10 years out of date because we've seen what this results in. We've seen it result in linear games. We've seen it result in like products like mixtape. It's like Hollywood isn't making games better. In fact, they're actively making them worse. And this is clearly observable if you're honest with yourself. and will like bring up like gaming's unique strengths over film, but like um for the masses, they still have this mindset that like Hollywood and filmmaking is like a higher art form than video games, and that isn't really true, like at all.
Video games. I'm not saying every game needs to have Shakespearean writing, but seeing Nintendo recently fumbling or even floundering with their stories is making me question if they should take the
Prime 4
plot
had
of
a
their
good plot.
games more seriously. I'm sick of
Metroid Prime 4 had a really good story, by the way. But anyway.
people saying, "Oh, the story is nothing to write home about. Nintendo games aren't very story driven. Who cares about the story?" I do. This story, whether present or subtle, can have a great effect on my overall enjoyment of the end product. And unfortunately, Nintendo's games, as legendary as they are, can sometimes be held back by their narratives. While there have been plenty of amazing narratives cooked up by the Big N over the years, I think there are fundamental issues and philosophies that hold their stories back. And no, it doesn't boil down to just bad writing or Miyamoto. Let's shed some light on some of these issues and talk about what I like to see moving forward. I still do think a contributing factor to Nintendo's relaxed approach to stories is indeed Shigeru Miyamoto. Legendary game designer, creator of Mario, Zelda, yada yada yada. When it comes to narratives in his video games, Miyamoto has on numerous occasions vocally pushed back on denser narratives, especially in Mario games, often removing narrative complexity in favor of simpler, action-focused experiences. An example would be pushing for more generic characters in Paper Mario. He gives The Legend of Zelda a pass because he designates those games as Nintendo's primary storytelling series. Miyamoto likes his games to immediately hook players in, seeing narrative complexity as unnecessary set dressing. If the gameplay alone isn't enough to hook a player in, then it's not a sufficient game. He's function over form, and this mindset is understandable for Mario or Pikmin, where narrative isn't really the point of the game, so why should it be a focus for you or the developer? But unfortunately, you can't.
Pikmin's always had like a pretty strong focus on like world building, story, and character. What are you talking about? Like Olimar has like one of the most well-rounded personalities out of any Nintendo protagonist.
Have some of these games without some story, and if the story isn't sufficient, players will notice and it will affect the overall perception of the game. Some gamers may rationalize that if the narrative lacks emotional investment, they shouldn't either. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is an amazing game, but I just prefer Galaxy because of its more impactful tone. Miyamoto's status as representative director.
Is this retard really arguing that Galaxy has a story? Like you have one cutscene at the beginning and one at the end. That's it. Like what are you talking? It's more impactful tone. Like what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like yeah, I know what he means. That like oh yeah, it's more melancholic. It's quieter. It has that weird like sense of mystery. And it's kind of hard to explain. Uh, Galaxy's a great game, obviously. But like saying it's better than Galaxy 2 is like laughably stupid. Like anybody who like actually evaluates Galaxy 2 as an actual product when it comes to like its level design and its replayability and it's just like its unique mechanics, like Galaxy 2 stops Galaxy 1. And like this mindset that like a game is better because it has like a darker tone or it has a more complex story. That's not necessarily true in this medium. And this is something that we do have to address going forward. Like this is a real problem for for this community is that these people seem to think that like having a story would somehow automatically make these games better when that isn't really the case.
Gives him a lot of credibility and status, which has led much of Nintendo to adopt his philosophy. But why? Why is Miyamoto like this? Could I propose that this mindset runs even deeper than Miyamoto, but to the very core of what makes Nintendo? This is Gunpei Yokoi. A lot of you may already know who he is, Game & Watch and Game Boy guy, but for those that don't, he is the reason Nintendo is here today. He might just be everything Nintendo stands for, manifested in a man. Yokoi was Miyamoto's mentor. He got his big break at Nintendo when designing toys, maximizing the fun that could be had with cheap materials. That idea eventually led to the Game & Watch with its basic calculator screen, but fun and addictive gameplay. And then that led to Donkey Kong, where Yokoi brought Miyamoto up to play with the big leagues. From there, a young Miyamoto adopted Yokoi's philosophy of maximizing the fun that can be encapsulated in lateral thinking with withered technology, where good ideas make success, where innovation beat microchips and graphics, where the core of the game beats the fluff. If you take a look at all the toys and games Yokoi has directly worked on, you'll notice how straightforward the concepts are. Game & Watches are simple high-score minigames. Balloon Fight makes your goal as easy as reading the title. Metroid drops you on a planet with nothing. The best example is probably Donkey Kong. Everything about this intro cutscene tells you everything you need to know. Yokoi was all about the game. What makes the game fun right from the start. It didn't matter if he was using calculator screens, a toy robot, or a gorilla in a construction site. All that mattered was if the game was fun, and if the mechanics helped serve that fun. This is what Miyamoto adopted, and what the rest of Nintendo was built on. Fun. Not just for the hardcore gamer that will pour 50 hours into an experience, but for everyone at first sight. On top of a philosophy that has created the core of Nintendo, the simple fact that the company thrives on franchises is why their stories cannot change the status quo. The Super Mario franchise must always have certain elements that will forever stay consistent to maintain the brand. The franchising of games have stagnated Nintendo's ability to change. Super Mario will never evolve in a narratively meaningful way because Mario has to...
In a narratively meaningful way. Yeah. Notice how he emphasized that. Never in a narratively... In a narratively way. A narratively meaningful way. Like, what about gameplay? You know, like Mario is always innovated when it comes to gameplay. Like again, because it's not gonna be like, why? Like, what would that add? Yeah, this is the same tired argument we've seen like for decades, and it's just like naturally reached its end point like a long time ago. All right. Yeah, I saw this.
There's another interesting cease and desist going around, and this is Cody Rhodes. During his podcast, this writer's from Kotaku, or Kotaku, however you pronounce it. Cody Rhodes is one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but even he can't escape the ever-watching eyes of Nintendo's vast army of lawyers and legal representatives. After once adding the Triforce from The Legend of Zelda to his boots, the WWE star says he received a kind cease and desist letter from Nintendo to remove it. Is there anything Nintendo won't sue for? Because recently, somebody had made these like really nice, intricate nature, like these faux nature documentaries, but for Pokemon, and like presented it as such. And Nintendo shut them down. It's like they're like Disney, they're like the Olympics, they're like the most
because you have to
litigious, among the most litigious groups in the world is Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo is, man, that's one of the reasons I don't get a Switch 2 or even a Switch OLED, because it's like when they came out with the buying isn't owning type thing, I was just like, nah, not doing this. But back in the day, I had Guitar Hero on my tights during the new ECW, and nobody, thank God, came in, because it was basically a Guitar Hero font for Stevie Richards paired with the Borg logo. If I did that today, because the logo, damn, Paramount is every bit as bad with the Star Trek fan films and all that stuff, like Star Trek Continues and other things that are still on YouTube.
Yeah. So this is the thing about people complaining about Nintendo being litigious. They're not particularly litigious. Like, every company does this. Like, this isn't like some unusual thing for Disney or Nintendo. The problem is that Nintendo is just bigger and more relevant than all these other companies, and so they just have to do it more. And so because people are so desperate to hate on Nintendo, they'll just come out and claim that Nintendo is overly litigious, when no, they have to do it to protect their brand. That's just the reality of it. Okay, I think we've seen enough from this. Do not care about Yeah, Yokoi. Yeah, that is definitely one. Yeah, we always talk about like how Rareware could have like really helped the GameCube become like a powerhouse, and like they could have easily like outperformed Halo, I think, with like the GoldenEye formula if they had like stuck with it. Um, like Rareware, if they had like stayed Nintendo exclusive, would have been like a huge thing on like GameCube. But like I think the bigger deal was like Yokoi and how he was treated, because like this is actually one of the very few Nintendo L's, like historically speaking, where like Yokoi was forced to put out the Virtual Boy to compete with the PlayStation, or like I don't remember what the logic behind it was, but like yeah, they put it out to consumers when it wasn't ready, and it was like the worst thing Nintendo had ever done, right? And it just completely tanked their reputation. And he like took the fall for that. Like when it was clearly like a beta and it was clearly like experimental technology. Like Yokoi took like the fall for that. And like so he left, and like he made the Wonder Swan, and that was like, the competitor for the Game Boy in like the later half of the 90s. It's the only reason why they didn't keep the Game Boy Color running longer, and they put out the Game Boy Advance. Like like Yokoi was I don't know. He is definitely one of the most critical people in like Nintendo's history. Like, I do think he's probably like the most critical person. He trained Miyamoto. Like, he was responsible for like the D-pad and like all these like critical like old school Nintendo moves. Like Yokoi, yeah, if he had stayed on like throughout the 2000s, um, that would have been like a huge deal. And like he probably would have been able to like train like more Miyamotos, and like been more involved in like hardware decisions. Like I don't know, the Wii does come off like something like he would have done, but like yeah, it's crazy to think he didn't actually live to see it. Yeah, that is crazy. But like yeah, one of Nintendo's like biggest names for sure. Very unfortunate that he died. And I don't think that he would have been ever been allowed to come back anyway, but I don't know. Definitely not the best move that they ever pulled. Like I don't know what they were thinking at the time with that. I don't know. I guess they were feeling the pressure with like, Sony trying to fuck them over, and just like the Square backstabbing. Yeah, a lot of like Nintendo's biggest like failures were in that period of like 95 to 96. Like just before like the N64 came out, because like delaying Star Fox, like canceling Star Fox 2, just like uh j- I don't know, it was just a rough period for them, because like they had to get 3D out as quickly as possible, and like they had to get it right, so it's just one of those things where it's just one of those like unfortunate things, like these unfortunate realities about like what's happening, and like what's about the realities of this kind of thing. How people are probably getting fucked over all the time. I don't know. Like, I'm definitely concerned about this. Like, as a Nintendo fan today, because it feels like a lot of like the old guard are going to retire in the next like 5 to 10 years. Miyamoto, Sakamoto. Tezuka just announced his retirement. Um, like Koji Kondo, I imagine won't be around much longer. Like, you have all like the critical like old school people about to retire, and I'm not sure if we have like that many people who are like capable of like stepping up and like killing it. Like Fujibayashi, I think, has proven himself. So I think Zelda's fine, but I'm not sure about like, and I'm sure 3D Mario's fine, but I'm not sure about every other brand. Like I'm not sure who's in charge of Star Fox now. I'm not sure who's gonna take over like Sakurai and Smash Bros. That's gonna be a problem. Like we have like Metroid, Paper Mario is a big one, because I think Rize Tabata has like is it Rize or Rise? I never understood how you say these names. But like yeah, Rize Tabata is taking over from a Tanabe, and I have no faith in her at all. Actually, that's like a big problem, I think. And this is like the low-key thing that nobody besides me would spurg about, but like I don't like how they keep putting women in like leadership roles. Like to me, this is like the beginning of the end of Nintendo, and it's very frustrating to me that like um, the majority of of people are just kind of ignoring this. But like, yeah, they have like women on the board now. They have like female producers, and it's just gonna go down like go downhill like fairly quickly. And I think in certain regards it already has. Um, but like, yeah, we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see. Like honestly, like that's kind of my mindset. Honestly, is that like I think I will just stop supporting Nintendo like once they go downhill, and I'll just stop like playing their games or caring about them. I mean, I've I haven't been playing a lot of games lately, and it's been great. I've been reading a lot more. I've been working on the books. I've been like focusing on my career. Working a lot, and it's like I'm in a position now. I think where I can kind of just stop like buying new games entirely and just be fine. So like, if the company falls off, that's I'll be like the first to tell you, but like, I don't know. It'll probably like be like a slow, gradual decline because it took Disney a long time to fall off after like Roy. Actually, that's what happened. Is that like Roy Disney was kicked off the board, and then they like went to great effort to make like the next 10 years like fantastic. Okay, the Disney Renaissance with like the Great Mouse Detective and like Little Mermaid and like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. Some of the most popular movies they've ever put out. And then they stopped being good in the 2000s, and they've never really like recovered from that. I think Nintendo will probably go down like the same trajectory if they fall off, where they'll have like some major like renaissance period and then just kind of like gradually fall off. But yeah. Oh, really? Really? Yeah, I did not know that. I'll have to look into that. I was actually thinking that like one of the things I'd like to do as a passion project in the future is that I would like to actually like produce um like a biopic about like Nintendo's rise to prominence. So it'd be a film about like Yamauchi and like Miyamoto and like Yokoi and those guys. Like I think I might be the most qualified person in the world to do that. Um, but like yeah, that's something that's years away. I'm not like I would need to like find a good director and like just I don't know. That's probably going to be something that I do at the end of my career. I think. That's gonna take a lot of research and study and stuff like that. Like I didn't even like produce my history book on Nintendo. Like I want to do it, but I want to do it, but like I'm a fiction writer and like I definitely can do it, but it's just one of those things where it's like just a completely different like thing, and I don't know, kind of apprehensive about it. One of these days though, I think. So like yeah, um, I don't know. People tell you a lot of things about these people that just aren't true. Like the whole bit like 20 years ago about how Yamauchi had him like killed. It's just why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense. Mhm. Yeah, I want some. What do we want to get as a kid? Is there anything else to watch? Yeah, we didn't get started until like a couple of we didn't get started until like a couple of like 10 minutes in and stuff. I think we have like 10 minutes on the podcast. What are we gonna talk about? I don't know if anything's been happening lately. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end the stream and get back to work on the cattle have fangs. Kit and Krista. Oh wow, Yahtzee is actually praising Super Mario Bros. Wonder. That's crazy.
Well,
Uh, let's see. Reaction. Ah, damn. Does it close automatically? The hell is this? Like, hello, hello. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. All right.
people are back to the Nintendo gloom and doom
Perpetually
again.
doomed.
Perpetually. And why does this keep happening? And is it getting out of control?
Doom.
It already it's always been like this. When even Kit and Krista are like acknowledging how out of control Nintendo is, are they straight up calling out Nintendo in this video? Are they gonna name drop him? Like that'd be fucking insane if they just straight up call Nintendo a retard. But like,
Since 1889.
Apparently.
TM. Put it on a t-shirt.
Put that on a shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, put that on a
yeah, even yeah, Doom since 1889. Just
shirt.
But yes, the cycle has started again.
Yes.
And a lot of it seems to be coming out of this latest financial results, which I guess you could look at a number of different ways where it's like, all right, the reporting on the last year was very good, being very transparent about challenges ahead, raising the price, probably not going to sell as many in the upcoming fiscal year. And as a result, the stock has, I mean, it is remarkable when you look at the kind of
The chart,
over the
yeah.
past, year to 2 years of Nintendo's stock going way down.
It has taken a
Way,
big
way,
old nosedive.
way down.
Yeah.
So I think, though, like, we need to collectively take a deep breath and kind of look objectively at what is happening. And I think we've come to the realization of, like, there's not really too much to be really genuinely worried about.
No.
I mean, it's easy to look at the stock going, like, numbers going down, way down, like, well, that's really bad. But I think we want to dig into, like, a lot of the reasons for that and talk about, like, how Nintendo is managing its business and how it's actually, like, really in a much better position than the vast majority of companies in gaming.
Exactly. It's like Nintendo has always been held to a slightly different standard. And there are definitely factors that is.
yeah, I definitely don't disagree with any of this. This has been happening since I was in the third grade. On the playground, everyone told me they were doomed. Yep, it happened. Yeah, I remember that happening. I remember where I was when someone told me they were doomed. Because PlayStation and Xbox were just way bigger companies and would obviously just win. It was just ridiculous. All right. It's Kid and Chris. Yeah, I don't want to endorse Kid and Krista, but that was a pretty reasonable take, I think. Nintendo is retarded. And like that's honestly like the most important thing that like culturally I think is that we just automatically reject Nintendo. It isn't gonna happen. Like even in the hypothetical scenario in which like someone does better than Nintendo for a quarter, it's not going to put them out of business. Is like the thing, and like that's something that I do think we have to like kind of shift our perspective towards is that like no, they're not going to stop producing consoles. No, they're not going to stop producing new games. It's just like so Nintendo as a concept is just outdated and like shouldn't really be brought up again. I think that's kind of an important thing. I mean, yeah, I think that's the goal for this generation is just kind of cementing the fact that like no, Nintendo is not a thing.
Would you believe me if I told you that some of the most exciting,
Oh, wait,
creative,
what?
and memorable
Oh, okay. So are there other people in the Yahtzee channel? I had no idea. Wow. Wow, I had no idea. Second Wind is the home of informative, interesting, and entertaining content from creators like Yahtzee, Jack Picard, and James Reed. Who the fuck are any of these people? Like, I just yeah, Patreon, yeah. The lore of Bionicle. Yeah, it feels like Yahtzee's fallen off a while ago. I haven't heard anybody try to glaze him since Brothership came out. And even then, like it was one of those cases that okay, fully ramblomatic. Okay. So like okay, these are the actual Yahtzee videos, fully ramblomatic. It's like okay. Like I don't understand why Yahtzee is why people glaze him so much. He's always been a fraud. I suppose it's just like a legacy thing at this point because he's been doing it so long, and because like for a long time he was seen as like the like super critical like person, and like people took him really very seriously. That hasn't been true in a long while, but I've hated this guy for like over a decade. Like I hate Yahtzee with a passion. So yeah, it's um it's definitely frustrating to kind of see to see the channel still exist and see him like put out his like retarded takes and like try and glaze like stupid shit that nobody cares about. It's just like nobody cares, honestly, is my opinion of Yahtzee. It's just like nothing he does has left any impact on anything whatsoever. Like Yahtzee is the kind of person who just kind of um has spent his entire career trying to destroy Nintendo by glazing like story driven games and trying to attack Mario and Luigi Brothership. And like it's ended up as like a complete nothing burger. Like he has a handful of dedicated shills who will defend everything he does, but like by and large, he has not had the impact of like someone like AVGN or even Spoonie, honestly. It's just like Spoonie is interesting because like even though he hasn't been like relevant in like 20 years, like you can still feel the impact because I think Spoonie is directly responsible for like the beginning of the end of like treating Final Fantasy like it was a sacred cow. Because like when Final Fantasy 8 came out, it was just seen as the best RPG ever made, like just because it was a Final Fantasy game, and not because it was actually good or innovative or like fun to play. And that's something we've been going over for like years. Like we still see people try and like glaze Final Fantasy 15 and stuff like that. We see people try and glaze like everything else they're doing, and it's just like it's just kind of like it's just kind of embarrassing, I think, how like the masses have created this illusion of just downplaying and destroying like Nintendo, and like eventually you can tell that like Yahtzee is kind of fed up with what he's doing. Like whenever you see him on camera, he just looks miserable. Like he's not really enjoying what he's doing at all, and it's just really sad, honestly. Like you just know that he'd rather be doing anything else with his time instead of like talking about video games incessantly. But that's all he's been successful at. He's tried being a bar owner. It sucked. He's tried writing books. They suck. Like nobody cares about anything other than zero punctuation. Oh, I'm sorry. Fully ramblomatic. I didn't even realize that I didn't even remember the show name. Zero punctuation is over. Like Yahtzee's still putting out content, but it's not associated with the brand zero punctuation. Like it's just like do they still like make zero punctuation? Like does the escapist still exist? I'm just like I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting how like these businesses are just run by like absolute mongoloids. Because like the escapist was on life support because of like Yahtzee. Okay, like you pissed him off and you like tanked your entire brand. Okay, like it's like, what were you thinking? This is like the simplest fucking thing. It's like if Shonen Jump told Oda to just end the series now, to end One Piece now. Like it's not gonna happen. Like it's just not gonna happen. I just find it so frustrating how like the community seems to think that that they can endlessly just endlessly just keep these shows going like indefinitely. That they can just like indefinitely support Yahtzee, and someday he's gonna destroy Nintendo, and someday he's gonna convince people that Mario and Luigi Brothership is a bad game, and someday he's gonna do something. And it's just, I don't know, man. He tried really hard, I think, to downplay Tamagotchi 3DS when it first came out, and now here we are with the new one being one of the biggest games of the year. It's just, these story drifters didn't give Brothership. Yep, yep, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I would say like another Code and like Detective Pikachu weren't that good, and like those kind of like reaffirm my point is that like Nintendo games shouldn't have stories if they don't want to have them. But yeah, MEO and like Brothership were legit great. Like Brothership is like one of my favorite RPGs ever now, honestly. So yeah, I think yeah, absolutely. Like there are plenty of like good story-driven Nintendo games. They're just not the big mainstream ones. And that's what people are like spurging out about. Like how dare like Super Mario not have a Thousand Year Door style plot? Then like, well, then the Thousand Year Door wouldn't be special. Now would it? Like that's just the mentality they're in, and like they just can't get out of it. It's embarrassing, honestly. Like they don't know what they're doing. I'm just so fed up with it. Honestly, I'm just so frustrated. I'm just like, bro, I'm just so disappointed with like the masses and like what they try to do and what they try to accomplish and like what they tr- what they want, and just like I just don't know like exactly what is what's gonna happen. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see like how the situation develops, like what we get going forward. Like I'm just like I don't know how this how the narrative's gonna collapse, honestly. Because like I do think we're on the fringe of like the story thing kind of falling apart. Because like one of the things about Star Fox and one of the things about Metroid Prime 4 actually is that these are actually very story driven games with like actually pretty good attempts at like storytelling, and like the masses just seem like they're gonna like just ignore it, and they're just gonna keep bitching about Mario and Zelda specifically. It's very, very interesting. You don't see these people talk about like how Pokemon's become more story driven over time. I was surprised when I went back to Fire Red about how like little story there is in that game. Like I remember playing Pokemon Red and being kind of surprised at like Pokemon Fire Red, and being surprised about like, wait, there's no anime plot to use the legendary Pokemon to do something to the world or something. It's just like I'm so used to like these anime plots that it was kind of jarring going back to like Gen 1 and realizing how like grounded it was initially. And that's what I loved about Gen 1. That's actually what I was like really into it for around like Gen 6 and 7. Like I remember like playing those games and just being like over the moon about like, yes, no anime plot. But like, yeah, I've really started to like them in recent years. The one in Scarlet and Violet was just phenomenal. So like, again, I'm not against Nintendo games having stories, but they have to be well implemented, and they have to like mean something. Like having a story for the sake of having a story, like it's just gonna bog everything down and make everything worse. I think. Like I think Nintendo really understand, like has their priorities in order and knows what they want to do, like creatively, and it's just like I'm just so tired of seeing people like complain about stuff like this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I think I'm gonna go out. I think I'm gonna have some I'm gonna have some lunch. I think I'm gonna like try and I think I'm gonna see like what else I need to do today. Yeah, we need to get some videos produced. I have not produced any videos in a while. So yeah, I think we're gonna end the stream now. I'm gonna produce some videos for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for supporting the Harmon Smith Show, and I'll be back tomorrow with some more content.